Hey, welcome to part 3 of the Contingency Contract Strategy Guide. In this video, I will go through various methods to deal with the casters and top casters. Use the pin on the top right to watch part 1 and part 2 first, as there are important disclaimers to make sure that this guide is for you. By the time you're watching this video, there may be less than 12 hours left to prepare. I'm trying to get this guide out as soon as I can, so I hope you guys can forgive me for the quality drop, and if I make any mistakes, I'll correct them in the pinned comment below. The casters and the top caster make up the last 2 of the 4 main threats. The first thing that you have to worry about are the bottom right casters, and there are 6 of them, as represented by this red line. And the final threat you have to worry about is the top caster. There's only a single top caster, and if you see the top caster, you know that he is the last person to spawn. The top caster has the exact same route as the katanas and spawns with the last red katana. The first strategy we're going to look at to deal with the casters is the easiest strategy of all. This is the Hellagur strategy that can be used on 25 risk and below.
What the f was that damage, my guy? Oh!
In order for this strategy to work, all you need is an E2 Hellagur. When I did this on Hino's account, her Hellagur wasn't even max skilled and it still worked. But of course, I'm trying to give you the safest option here, and the safest option from what I can see is E2 30 with skill level 7. Whether you use skill 1 or skill 2 depends on what you're doing for the red katana, but I'll get into that later. And as a quick note, the risk level that I write on the top of the strategies here, that's the maximum level of risk that this strategy works on. So anything below 25, this should work. Anything above 25, this might not work. As for what you actually need to do in this strategy, if Hellagur is set to skill 1, all you need to do is dump him in front of the caster spawn, and that's it. If you are using skill 2, I'm going to assume that you're doing the Ange Blast strategy, in which case you have to remember to activate skill 2 to kill the red katanas and to kill the casters. As for the analysis, Hellagur is the only guard that works here because Hellagur currently is the only guard that can heal himself. He must be E2, otherwise he will not generate enough health for himself. Angelina's E2 passive can help, but it will not be enough just by itself. If you run into the problem of Hellagur dying, and this applies generally for anything else dying, try not to combine the self HP decrease risk with enemy attack increase. If you decrease your own health by 75% and increase the enemy attack by 80%, yeah, everything's gonna one-shot you. If you are using skill 1, I would not recommend mastery on skill 1 because how often do you use Hellagur skill 1 in the actual game? As for my recommendations, I highly recommend this strategy. Hellagur is not only a great unit for CC, but he's also a great unit for the regular game and the next CC. This strategy also does not require a lot of micromanagement, so you can put your focus on some other things that require more of your attention. Bless this undying god. Okay, here's a second strategy. This one does not require any 5 stars or 6 stars. However, there is one specific 5-star unit that I believe will work extremely well here. This is the low rarity strategy, and the only 2 units you need are Gavial and Gravel. This strategy is great if you do not have Hellagur or if you cannot play Hellagur, such as if you're doing a caster or specialist strategy where you have banned guards and defenders, obviously you can't play Hellagur. Basically, this strategy is only for casters and specialist strategies. I will get into exactly who you need to replace for Gavial and Gravel, but for now, all you need to know is that they have to be E2 max and M3 skill. I will explain as the video goes along. Don't freak out about the M3s. This is the first page. I'm trying to oversimplify everything on the first page. As for what you are actually doing, a super strong single target medic plus Gravel is basically a great value Hellagur. All you have to do is drop your medic early so that they can pre-charge their skill, then whenever a caster spawns, just drop Gravel on them. Once the caster dies, you can retreat Gravel. Now let's get into the analysis, and there's a lot of stuff to know here. First of all, what medic can you use here? And I believe there are only 2 good options. Warfarin and Gavial are the best choice because they have a low SP percentage heal. Warfarin is a better option than Gavial because Warfarin has the potential to have the strongest healing in the entire game. Hibiscus, Ansel, Mira, and Shining are all single target medics, but they don't heal enough in a single heal. Silence's drone may help, but I cannot prove this as there is no evidence, so it can also fail. I don't know. AoE or wide range medics will never have enough healing power to keep Gravel alive. Nightingale's passive res boost will not save Gravel. Susuro can only pop her skill twice, but there are more than 2 casters. And finally, you can use Lancet if you want to die and make a funny meme. Haha. Now you remember on the first page I wrote that Gravel is replaceable. The one you can replace her with is Project Red. However, I am very on the edge about this. See, Red's skill 1 has a 40% dodge. If it lands on the 60%, you're dead. On a second note, I don't know whether red will do enough damage to kill the caster before the skill ends. If the skill ends and the caster is still alive, red can't dodge, red will die. Now it's important to note that Gravel must be at E2 max. At E2 max, if you choose the exact same risks as what I'm showing on the video, Gravel will have 470 HP. The casters do 460 damage, meaning she can survive with 10 health. And as for Gravel's M3, I do not think this is necessary, although the person who did this used a Gravel at M3. The reason I don't think this is necessary is because Gravel can clearly survive even after the skill ends. Is M3 for the medic necessary? I would say probably not, but I cannot prove this because there is no evidence. The person who did this strategy used an M3 medic. I do believe, however, that if you are using Warfarin, I don't think that you need M3. Again, I cannot prove this, but it's just a hunch feeling. If your guys are dying and you can't M3 anyone, just shift the risks around so you don't need the M3. The two specific risks that are very important to this strategy are enemy attack plus 15% and self HP minus 75%. These two tags add up to 4 risk. I think it goes without saying that if you did enemy attack plus 20% or something, you will die. As for my recommendations of the strategy, I think everybody should be able to do this because Gavial and Gravel are extremely easy to obtain at full potential as well. This strategy probably will not work if you are using guards and defenders. The only exception is if you don't choose any of the no X class tags. Here's why. Guards and defender strategies allow you to have healing defenders. This way you do not need medics. You also have arts guards that can do arts damage, so you don't need casters. Meaning you can safely choose the ban casters / medic tag for an extra risk. Now, if you cannot afford to E2 max your Gravel, check the next strategy out. Hey, would you look at that? Another E1 only strat. Yeah, whatever. I like to call this the sniper strat. Again, I don't like calling things E1 only because that's kind of a false truth. Yeah, they're all E1 only, but if they're all 5 and 6 stars and you don't have them, good luck. The sniper strategy was used to clear 18 risk. You do not need every single person here, you just need to combine them, and I'll explain in a second. This strategy will work regardless of what strategy you're doing for gas mask. You could be running guard strategies, caster strategies, specialist strategies, this will still work for you. As for the safest option here, the required units are Project Red, Gravel, Firewatch, and Platinum. I've also placed 4 other operators here, but keep in mind that they may not work. At the same time, they may work just by themselves. It's pretty complicated because you can combine this in so many ways. I'll go into more detail later. Firewatch here says non-replaceable, but technically you can replace her. It's just you'll have to introduce a new unit as well. By the way, I do recommend having both fast redeploys. Although Project Red is replaceable, I wouldn't do that, and I'll explain why in a second. Okay, as for what you're actually doing, here are 4 pictures showing the exact same strategies, just with different operators. The principle is exactly the same. You have a sniper on top facing down, you block the caster with a fast redeploy to reveal them, and the sniper should kill them. Always, always, always deploy Gravel first, because you can reveal him. If Gravel dies, you can drop Project Red and you will stun him. If you drop Project Red first, you will not stun the caster because the caster was invisible upon deployment, and Red's wolf pack will not hit. Now we get to the analysis, and I'll address things from left to right. First thing is, who can Red be replaced with? Now, as I said earlier, I do not recommend replacing Project Red. But if you are desperate and you don't have Red, you can try Waifu or any single block Vanguard. None of these options are as good as Red, and here is why. Waifu, even though she is a fast redeploy, she does not stun, meaning the caster can still attack her and one-shot Waifu. Single block Vanguards cost more to deploy, and they don't have the fast redeploy trait. Meaning if the casters spawn too frequently and you cannot redeploy your single block Vanguard in time, you're gonna run into problems. Here's some troubleshooting. If your sniper isn't doing enough damage to kill the caster, you can try using Red's skilled 1. If you do this, it will give Red a 40% RNG dodge chance, however she will do more damage. Yes, this does mean you have a 60% chance to fail. However, CC doesn't cost you anything, so just retry it if it fails. Now, I've got 4 pages of notes here for this strategy, so there's a lot of detail to soak in. Listen up. Do not deploy your second fast redeploy unit instantly after the first one dies. The reason being, there are a few seconds where the caster is still visible even though no one is blocking the caster. In these few seconds, your sniper may be able to get a few extra shots in. That being said, don't wait too long to deploy Project Red. You must deploy Project Red before the caster becomes invisible again. If you do not do this, the caster will not be stunned and red will die. Now let's address the individual advantages and disadvantages of every single sniper in the game. Theoretically, you can use every single sniper by themselves, but you'll have to change some things up. I'll explain later. First of all, why is Platinum and Firewatch a safe option? Platinum is good because she gets extra range on skill 2. However, alone she does not do enough damage. Firewatch technically cannot be replaced. Reason being, Firewatch becomes invisible on skill 1, meaning the top caster cannot target her. If you replace Firewatch, you will need something else to deal with the top caster. Firewatch also has a slow fire rate, so she cannot be used alone. Shirayuki can do arts damage and assist in killing the gas mask. She also has the range to hit the casters from way back, and I recommend you E2 her for that extra grid of range. However, her fire speed is too slow and cannot be used alone. Meteorite is exactly the same as Shirayuki, minus the arts damage. Exu does a lot of damage and can solo kill the caster. Remember, you can E2 her for even more damage. However, she doesn't have the range to hit the caster from all the way back, and you will not be able to choose the remove tiles risk at level 3. If you are using Swartz, make sure you M1 her third skill, because M1 gives her an extra block of range, meaning she will have the range and the damage to kill the casters from all the way back. If you do not M1 Swartz, you'll have to move her one tile forward, meaning you can't choose the level 3 remove tiles risk. Cruz, Adnakio, Jessica, Meteor, Vermeil, May, Blue Poison, and Rangers may not do enough damage. I cannot prove this because I can't find a strategy that uses all of these guys, so maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I don't know. I have accidentally left out a few names here. Catapult is in the exact same category as the ones that I just listed. Executor and Province are in different categories because they don't have enough range. You will have to put them really far forward, and that puts them in great danger of being killed by the caster. And remember when I said that every sniper can technically be used solo? Well, you can do this, but you'll have to introduce defenders instead of fast redeploys. See, as long as you have a defender blocking the caster and keeping the caster revealed, and as long as the caster doesn't kill your defender, the caster will always be visible and they'll always be taking damage from the sniper. Meaning no matter how low your attack speed is or how low your damage is, eventually you'll be able to kill them. Also, remember that Firewatch is the only sniper in the game that can go invisible. Jessica cannot go invisible. She only gains 75% dodge. That's not invisibility. If you are not using Firewatch, you will need an answer for the top caster, and that's what I'll show you on the next few pages. As for my recommendations for the strategy, first of all, I think everybody should have a strong sniper by now. If you don't, you may be screwed on the drone stage, and that's more important, so go check that first. And remember, this strategy works regardless of what you're doing for the gas mask. Now, if you choose to use a solo sniper here, your gas mask team may take some extra pressure because one of your defenders will now have to block the caster as well. So if your team can handle the extra pressure from the bottom caster, great. If you can't handle the extra pressure and the caster is doing too much damage, consider swapping for Hellagur instead. Even if you don't have a Hellagur, grab a Hellagur from friend support. Alright, great, now let's deal with the top caster. Hey, do you guys remember about 2 weeks ago when I said that only 10% of people watching this video have subscribed? I wonder how that's going. Hey, that's not bad. Thank you so much for subscribing and supporting my content. If my guides are helpful for you and you have not subscribed yet, hey, between you and me, you know what to do. This here is the brute force strategy done at 25 risk. All the operators that you see here can be replaced with another melee operator that is strong enough to block or reveal and then kill the top caster. Some examples that I know will work with evidence is Silver Ash, Scotty, Project Red, Hellagur, even Flamebringer, and Vigna. No, I have not seen Melantha be used here. I don't know whether this means that she doesn't work or whether nobody's tried it. Now, out of all these options that I've given you, the best option is anybody with one block. Reason being, top caster spawns with red katana. You do not want to accidentally block the red katana. As for what you are actually doing in the strategy, here are again 4 different variations. All you are trying to do is block the top caster and kill him without blocking the red katana. If you are using Vigna, you may need some healing such as Myrtle, Neural, Gumi, or Saria. And if you are using Silver Ash, make sure Silver Ash doesn't block the red katana so put him out of harm's way, and remember to put some bait down so the caster does not target Silver Ash. If you are fast enough, you can deploy someone behind the red katana to deal with the top caster. But if you can't do that, or if you're too slow, you can also put someone in front of the red katana, since the red katana just stands there for a few seconds. Now we get to the analysis, we can take a look at what operators can be used to fill this role. Remember, when you take the decreased self HP risk and increased enemy attack risk, especially if they're at level 3, the casters and top casters can one-shot most of your operators. As a general rule of thumb, if they're not a guard or a defender, they'll probably get one-hit KO. This is not 100% true, as Vigna at E220 can survive with a sliver of health, but that's exactly why a healer is needed. Silver Ash will die in 2 to 3 hits, which is why you need to remember to shift the target to a bait. Typically, you will be using vanguards in the early game, but undeploy them later for more useful units. You can now redeploy these vanguards as the bait. Do not bring a unit on your team specifically for being bait. That is a waste of an operator slot. Now, I specified that Silver Ash has to be M3 here because a single extra hit from the top caster could mean death. We really want to kill the top caster as soon as possible. What about Granny instead of Vigna? I think that should work. I have not seen it done before. I think that you don't need as many levels for Granny either. The reason being, Granny has more health, but not as much damage. However, when you consider the risks, Granny's attack is not too far off from Vigna's attack. So I don't think it'll matter whether you use Granny or Vigna, but I cannot prove that Granny will work. Just remember that if you are using Granny, that you do not accidentally activate her skill and block the red katana as well. As for my recommendations of the strategy, I think Scotty is the safest option for this role. You do not need to E2 your Scotty, and E1 Scotty can work as well, but you may need potential 3. If you are using Scotty just for this one job alone, you don't need the potential 3. So this means that if you use Scotty somewhere else and you have to pull her out, that redeployment cooldown will matter. If you are using Silver Ash, I'm going to assume that you're using him more than for just this one role. Remember, Silver Ash charges up faster if you pull him out and then redeploy him. This is especially true for M3. I think it's true for M2 as well. You'll have to check for M1 or skill 7. I think that this is by far the easiest way to deal with top caster. The hard thing about this is remembering when to deploy someone to deal with him. When I was doing this myself, I had to remember to pull someone out and then drop Silver Ash in. But it's not as simple as that because Silver Ash needs to charge up his skill, meaning I need to predict when the top caster will spawn and pre-drop Silver Ash early so he can charge up in time. Just run it a few times, get the rhythm, and you'll get it eventually. By the way, here's an example of how not to deal with the top casters. Fuck, top caster, top caster. Please go. Come now. Please, I need to deal with top caster. Shit! I fucking panicked on top caster. Damn it. As for the second top caster strategy, this is the Firewatch strat. Obviously, the most important unit here is Firewatch. If you do not have Firewatch, technically, it is still possible to do this, but it will be quite difficult. Project Red and Gravel are also needed here. Gravel cannot be replaced, Project Red can be replaced. As for what you're actually doing, it's quite specific and you will need a bit of game knowledge. You are basically going to let the top caster destroy your entire top lane and get to the right side of the screen. When the top caster gets close to Firewatch, you activate Firewatch's skill so that she cannot be targeted. Now the top caster will keep walking down, and once he passes the D10 tile, this is where you deploy your fast redeploy units to reveal the caster so Firewatch can shoot him. If you deploy Gravel, she will likely die. Then you'll need to deploy Project Red afterwards to hold the position. If you do not have Project Red, wait for the caster to leave the D10 tile, then deploy a second sniper on top of Firewatch facing down. Then deploy Gravel on the caster. Make sure you do not deploy Gravel first and then the sniper. Why specifically after they leave the D10 tile? Because D10 is the last tile where the caster can target your second sniper. This means that if you split box the caster between D10 and C10, C10 being the one underneath it, the caster will be out of range to hit your second sniper. Now, if you're not using a second sniper and you're using just Project Red, you can block the guy before D10, but obviously make sure it's within Firewatch's range. Now, if the caster doesn't die after you have deployed Gravel and Project Red, and he goes invisible again, you are kinda screwed. You either have to make your guys stronger or you have to lower the risks. Alternatively, you bail from this strategy and try something else. Now, I did say that it would be difficult but not impossible without Firewatch. The reason being, Firewatch does a heck of a lot of damage. Without Firewatch, you can use a lone sniper on the position of the second sniper facing downwards. However, this sniper better be really strong like an Exu or something. Remember, if the caster doesn't die here and keeps on going, your people dealing with gas mask are likely going to be in trouble. As for my recommendations, I'm not the biggest fan of this strategy. The reason being, the first thing you have to do is let the caster walk all throughout top lane and kill every single person up there. Meaning, if you decide to play Myrtle and Ifrit up here, they'll be gone by the time the caster walks past. Now, let's say for example that I were to use the caster strategy. Taking out Ifrit is just a bit scary. Now, this has been done before for a caster strategy, and it has been proven to work. I'm not saying it won't work, I'm just saying it's a bit scary to take out Ifrit. Now, what would I do if I was using the caster strategy and I had Project Red? Well, I think I would prefer using Red on skill 1 and chance the 40% dodge RNG to kill the top caster early instead. This way, I wouldn't have to undeploy Ifrit and put extra pressure on my guys dealing with the gas mask. So my recommendations for this strategy, hey, if it fits for you, that's perfectly fine. Go ahead and try it, and I hope it works for you. But I personally, I'm not gonna touch this. If you're still not sure what risks your team can clear, join our Discord server using the link in the description right now, and we'll try to help you out. I will be doing contingency contract handholding, so make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay notified when that happens. Best of luck for contingency contract, Doctor. Cheers.